Goeienaand en welkom by Fokus. Ek is Liesel Olivier en ek staan vanaand in vir Lenet Francis Puren. Bietjie later in die program vertel ons meer oor kodering en wat 'n rol dit in die moderne samelewing speel. Meer as 400 mense is reeds dood in die oorstromings in KwaZulu-Natal. Talle word steeds vermis. Skade aan infrastruktuur beloop na raming meer as 11 miljard rand. Duisende mense het steeds geen water nie en in sommige gebiede is daar ook nie elektrisiteit nie weens skade aan substasies. Dis egter nie die eerste keer wat die provinsie onder vernietigende vloede deurloop nie. In 1987 is sowat 400 mense dood en skade van honderde miljoene rande is aangerig toe groot dele van die provinsie oorstroom het na swaar reën. Om te hoor wat die jongste stand van sake is, het ons vroeër vanmiddag via Zoom gepraat met Dr. Imtiaz Suliman, die hoof en stigter van die organisasie Gift of the Givers. Good afternoon, Dr. Suliman, and thank you so much for joining us. Recovery operations are continuing in KZN, and your organisation is very involved with these recovery operations. Tell us on the ground at the moment, where are you standing with the situation in KZN?
Good afternoon, Lisa. The situation is not very good. No, when I say not very good, the number of missing has increased substantially. Last week, when our teams were doing distributions in the various areas, we found information that was different from the past floods of 87 and 2019. When we went on distribution, people would say 2 people are missing in this house. There's 5 people missing from here. 2 children from somebody else. A mother, a granny, a brother, a son are missing. Children are missing on the way to school. Somebody coming back from work is missing. And that message was consistent, giving a pattern. And then one of the days when my teams went into Inanda, one of my team members said he saw women sitting on the edge of the river in Inanda, and he asked them, "What are you doing there? It's dangerous." They said, "We're waiting for the bodies of our family people." And then we realized there was a much bigger problem. It was just too consistent to be a random small amount of people. And we decided then to bring search and recovery teams because there's no rescue now. It's too late for rescue. And at the same time, of course, the KZN government was also decided to expand the program and invited the Western Cape Provincial Disaster Management to come. They are our friends, and we all joined hands collectively to see what we can do. But the area is big, so where do you start? We decided to send out a message and said, have anybody lost any family members that are not found? Do you know of anybody who's lost family members that are not found? And within minutes, the messages started coming through. In my house, 10 people were washed away. We found 4, 6 are missing. In another area, we know of 20 people that are missing. And that kind of message kept on coming through. In Reservoir Hills, there's a child buried here and an elderly man buried there. We're digging with our hands, but we can't find them. And 2 days ago, by the time I counted in the morning, yesterday morning, when I counted, the total missing is 237. And we've got more names coming through yesterday and more names coming today. And you ask me how's the situation on the ground. It's difficult. The mud is very high. It's difficult to break through. You can't move heavy equipment in. And the bodies that are found are either floating in water or some that have been found on ground are very, very decomposed. So it's a very hard situation for my family members, and it's very somber, and it's affecting the media people as well and certain recovery teams too.
Yes, I can just imagine that it has a huge impact and a huge effect on the people working in those areas. You said more than 200 people are still missing, and I suppose I also understand that many people have spent the past weekend in mortuaries looking for loved ones. This could potentially also become a massive problem. Bodies that people are not coming to identify or to take away.
The people asked, the people that we spoke to, who sent us the names, they said, "This is my name. These are the 3 people missing in my family." They gave the names and the ages. So they gave us those names clearly. And then we mentioned to them, what about looking in the mortuaries and hospitals? And they said, no, they can't find it. There's nobody in the mortuaries and there's nobody in hospitals. And then there'll be even more people than the number that we have, because some people haven't got the message yet, and other people couldn't respond, and other people just too sad to even phone or try anybody everybody just digging with their own hands. And of course, the roads were not accessible, then the networks were not working, and then there was no electricity, and phones couldn't be charged. So it was the accumulation of factors, but the biggest one obviously was sadness and depression, and people just felt too lost to do anything. And they were hoping that emergency services would come and somebody would help them. The community members themselves were digging. But there's so many mortuaries to go to, coming back to the mortuary point. People didn't know which one to go to, which hospital to go to. Only 2 had good news. After 2 days, they said, we found our people alive. They were in another area. They had no communication. Eventually, the phone got charged, and they called us. So besides those, that was outside the 237. There were only 2 stages where live people were found, and others missing. There's just no news about them.
When you speak to community members, when you speak to residents, there must be horrible emotions that these people are going through. What stories are they telling you, the residents, the members of the community? What are they telling you? How are they feeling?
Most of them are in shock, because this happened very suddenly. A lot of them were living along streams, and on the edges of rivers and on the mountain edge or hill's edge. And the stream became a raging river within minutes. And they would say that the water was, I must say they're very strong when they speak. They're very strong when they speak, when they're relating the stories of it, so what happened. And they say the river was raging and it just washed the house away with all the people, and our family members were lost and washed away, and our children disappeared. We couldn't catch them. We found one of them in a tree, somewhere else. We were fortunate, but it was too fast. It was terrifying. It was horrendous. And then of course, not in those type of words. And then one of the areas we spoke to was Washani. It's a place in Thousand Valley. And we came to know that for 6 days, nobody got inside there. Nobody could come out because the roads were completely blocked off. A helicopter went in. A lecturer from DUT managed to alert people. Our helicopter went in, took out the deceased people, still bodies missing there, and took out some of the injured people. And then he explained to me, he said, the biggest challenge here were the boulders. They came down the mountain and they smashed into the homes of the people, and the homes got pushed into the river, and many people disappeared. He said it was frightening. We have a friend that has a house in Durban North. This is not an informal settlement. This is not a low-lying house. This is a well-developed house in a well-developed area. The person said she was sitting at a dining room table with her son. Suddenly it sounded like a lightning striking. And the Wendy house from outside came straight through the dining room window into the dining room. She jumped up with fright, but she realized she's safe, her son is safe, but because it came from higher up, her husband was upstairs, and she was worried, what happened to him? Is he alive? Those were her thoughts. The boundary wall from above fell down. The neighbors from downstairs, also a medical couple, this is a medical couple, and also a medical couple, rushed up to see if they can help this lady and the husband and the child. As they rushed up, across the boundary wall, not the boundary wall that fell, another boundary wall, there were another 2 houses, which were higher than these 2 people's houses. And the men started shouting from the top, go back, your boundary wall is about to fall on your house. So they rushed back down because their daughter was in the house and the domestic was in the room attached to the house. But as they got down and shouted for the domestic to get her out of their room, I don't think she heard. And the wall fell on the domestic's room. And they heard her cry and, in pain and ask for help, but within minutes, she was silent. And up till today, in a small place, that body is not retrieved. Today, we've got more emergency teams there. We've got better equipment, bigger equipment, and we're hoping that today there'll be closure. It has been extremely difficult. Now, the point I'm making, in an enclosed house, in a built-up area, you're battling for almost 10 days to find a person. What are the chances of finding people in areas where there's lots of mud, lots of boulders, huge mountains of sand, and people are buried in? So to answer, the anxiety, the desperation to find people when they're digging with their bare hands, all the community members coming to help, it's very, very heartbreaking what people are going through right now in KZN.
Net hierna sit ons die gesprek met Dr. Imtia Suliman voort, bly gerus ingeskakel. KwaZulu-Natal probeer nog die volle omvang van die skade bepaal na verlede week se oorstromings. Ons sit nou ons gesprek voort met Dr. Imtiaz Suliman van Gift of the Givers. Dr. Suliman, you briefly mentioned the 1987 floods in KZN, in which also around 400 people died. And you mentioned that it is completely different. And this one definitely surpassing that one in terms of, well, I suppose everything, death toll and all of that. Were there a few things that were similar though? Were there not lessons learned from that 1987 flood that could have been used in this instance this year?
1987, I wasn't involved in disaster work at all, so I can't compare much from that one. 2019, I was, and we were involved very much with the disaster in KZN, and at the same time we were running, it was around the same time the cyclone Idai took place. So we were involved in Malawi, Zimbabwe, Mozambique, and soon after the floods came here. Yes, I can compare it to 2019. This is not probably, this is the worst natural disaster in South African history. No, in my lifetime. Maybe before my lifetime, I don't know, but in my lifetime, this is the biggest disaster in South Africa for several reasons. The infrastructure damage is huge compared to the other ones. Secondly, the loss of life is far beyond 443. I'll put it way beyond 600, if not more than that. There's the trauma and the anxiety and the fear caused, the amount of water that came in a short time has affected the mental state of thousands of people all over KwaZulu-Natal. The number of people displaced is far higher than 2019. And of course, the deaths and the number of houses destroyed is far more than 2019. The lessons learned is not specific to 2019 or for that matter in 1987 or 2022. The lessons are that there has to be preparedness and preparation and preventive mechanisms. Now that could be blamed on people in the existing government, on people before them, or people before them. It doesn't matter or whether blame or not to blame, what the steps should have been taken. Maybe we can't blame anybody, but what the steps should be taken. Number one, why did we don't have enough helicopters? We're on a coastal line. We know the cyclonic weather happens along the coast, and every time it happens along the coast, from Mpangeni downwards right up to Port St. John's. This is something that happens all the time. So we need to have more helicopters. And that's part not only for weather, but in general, and not only in Durban, all over the country. We don't have enough helicopters. We had, but they're out of commission. So maintenance is a big problem, both of equipment and buildings and water systems, sanitation systems, stormwater drains, they're not maintained. Our water pipes, everything, how well are they maintained? That's the first issue about maintenance and helicopters. Secondly, we don't have enough boats. Thirdly, we don't have enough trained personnel. You can't have all the trained personnel sitting in one area. The roads got cut off, the rain was too heavy, the helicopters couldn't fly at that point. Yes, we needed them afterwards when the rain settled to take people off the roofs. But at that point, when the roads are cut off, you can't get to different areas. We need to have trained personnel along the entire coast. People who know how to help in rescue services, who keep a calm mind, who don't panic, who know how to move people to higher ground. Thirdly, or not thirdly, it's quite a few points now. Why are we dependent on cellular networks and phone lines when the walkie-talkie is the best system to use in situations like this? We didn't have walkie-talkies, and that's what we use when we go in disasters. The most important of all this is we have to have an organized system, not have people staying on low-lying ground.
Thank you so much for your time and thank you for talking to us and thank you for your efforts. Bly ingeskakel, net hierna hoor ons watter rol kodering in die samelewing speel. Ons is net hierna terug. Die 4de nywerheidsrevolusie, groot woorde wat dui op groot omwentelinge wêreldwyd en wat sonder rekenaars en die vermoë om rekenaars te programmeer nie moontlik is nie. Die Suid-Afrikaanse Departement van Onderwys het enkele weke gelede aangekondig dat kodering en robotika 2 van 19 nuwe skoolvakke is. Kodering is reeds 'n loopbaan waarin heelwat Suid-Afrikaners floreer. Maar wat presies is dit en hoekom speel kodering so 'n groot rol in die toekoms? Regisseur Karen Dorweel verduidelik.
Kolani Gadebe werk van die huis af en dit vir een van Suid-Afrika se grootste banke. Die 29-jarige man is nie skaam oor sy sukses nie.
When I was looking at it, there was a lot of news around app developers making a lot of money on Play Store, iOS Store. So I was like, I know I'm creative and all of that. Let me just give it a shot and see what happens. And I was fortunate enough to get employment from the get-go, from college, and I've been employed ever since, and my career is just on a upward trajectory.
Kolani is 'n kodeerder en oud-student van Code College in Woodmead, Johannesburg. Arnold Graaf, 'n stigter van die college, verduidelik wat presies kodering is.
Kodering is die belangrikste deel van programmeerontwikkeling, want elke app wat jy gebruik in jou lewe is aan mekaar gesit deur die kodering. Of kodering is 'n ander woord is rekenaarprogrammering. So die hele idee van kodering is om dinge te outomatiseer, prosesse te outomatiseer.
Meeste mense gebruik elke dag 'n verskeidenheid toerusting wat sonder kodering nie sal werk nie. Twee van die studente van Code College verduidelik presies hoe dikwels mense werklik die produkte van kodering gebruik.
I'd say from the get-go, your laptop, your phone, smartphones are encrypted with coding, televisions as well, and like you said, robots, the projector we're using right now as well.
Van mense selfone, laptop, TV, as mens kyk na jou microwave, dit het ietsie met kodering te doen, en even die robots by die kom ons sê, in die straat, dit het ook ietsie daarmee te doen.
Arnold verduidelik dat studente van Code College werk vind by 'n groot verskeidenheid instansies.
Die ons wat ons nou geplaas het, is in finansiële maatskappye, banke, versekeringsmaatskappye, vervaardigingsmaatskappye soos BMW. Dan is daar ook die maatskappye soos die gesondheidsindustrie, soos die waar jou mediese fondse is, en so dis 'n wye gebied. Daar is ook natuurlik rekenaarmaatskappye wat rekenaar speletjies ontwerp.
Arnold verduidelik ook dat studente soos die in hierdie klaskamer by Code College 'n groot aanvraag kan wees by werksplekke.
As hierdie maatskappy nommer 1 'n vinniger besigheidsproses het as die ander een, dan sal hy meer besigheid kry. En dit is hoekom kodering gedryf word deur die aanvraag. Tussen maatskappye en kompetisie tussen maatskappye. Dit sal nooit 'n einde wees daar nie.
Beide Sean en Goro wil graag in die buiteland werk.
I'd like to work in San Francisco, maybe Google, one of the biggest IT developers work there, so I'd love to do that. And who knows, maybe even Tesla, because Elon Musk is South African.
My ideale werk is eintlik in 'n ander land, in Groenland, vir die renewable energy. En hulle help dan met alle sisteme en dan te werk vir hulle, ja.
Arnold en sy studente meen kodering is nie net 'n gesogte loopbaan nie, maar leer mense ook soveel ander vaardighede.
At first I was a very shy person, when I got here the first time I was very quiet. When I met members of my class, they're very social, very interactive, so working together really boosted my confidence, and presenting in front of class as well.
Dit help mense om in groepe te werk en om met mense van ander kulture te werk.
Baie van die skoolkinders word nie geleer om te dink nie en om te beplan nie. So kodering, 'n groot deel van kodering is om jou te leer om 'n situasie vooruit te beplan en vooruit te projekteer voordat jy die oplossing implementeer.
En dit is hoe Gershom Aitchison ook kyk na die voordele van kodering in 'n klaskamer soos hierdie by die Education Incorporated privaat skool in Fokus, Johannesburg.
Coding has a lot of benefits in that space. Obviously, learning to demonstrate your thoughts in a logical process, in a sequence, so it helps a lot of kids with organizational skills. It also has the benefit of problem solving, understanding what your victory condition is at the end of the problem, and then you work your way backwards.
Gershom verduidelik dat kinders van 'n baie jong ouderdom die basiese beginsels van kodering kan leer.
So you've got programs that you can download for young children, grade 0, grade 1, because it's icon-based and because it's GUI-based, they're just dragging blocks and getting a result.
Vreemd soos dit mag klink, vertel Gershom dat kinders in koderingsklasse amper aangemoedig word om foute te maak, omdat die vinnige regstelling van foute in die klaskamer en uiteindelik die werksplek vrugte afwerp.
Coding has a specific purpose where it's teaching you to give the instructions. You're not the end user, you're creating content for somebody to use. If the result is not going to work, I want that process to stop quickly so you can start on something new. And I think in what the world is experiencing now and what we want in the workplace is we don't want people plugging away for 3 months on a project that's never going to work. We want to know in a week that it's not working, save everyone money, let's move on to the next thing, let's get new ideas in.
Your snapshot, so it takes a snapshot of the picture.
Kinders wat kodering en robotika klasse bywoon by Edu Inc. word nie geëksamineer nie. Gershom is opgewonde daaroor dat die departement van onderwys volgende jaar die 2 vakke wil deel maak van die leerplan vir skole.
I think that is a very, very good idea. The implementation of it, however, is going to be challenging because I think if you approach it like a traditional subject, where you stand in front of the class, everybody click on this, everyone click on that, and you have the same outcome, it's not going to inspire the kids. It's not going to have the effect that you want it to have.
I think everything is going to be dependent on coding in the coming years. So I think it's a good initiative because I'm about to take my son for coding classes as well.
Motors wat vlieg? Ja, daar is reeds sprake daarvan. Kenners meen kodering kan die eens onmoontlike moontlik maak.
You could virtually be doing anything, but if you have the coding aspect of it, then you could transform a simple idea that you think and digitize it and take it global.
Vandat ek begin het, was daar altyd 'n tekort aan kodeerders. En nou deesdae is lyk my die tekort is nog groter, want die meer mense gebruik nou meer besighede gebruik besigheidsprosesse. So dit sal nooit eindig nie.
En dis al vir vanaand. Fokus se uitsendings is beskikbaar op YouTube. Ons groet tot volgende Woensdag aand om 7 wanneer ons weer op ons pos gaan wees. Tot dan, totsiens.